Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Android App Arena is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Android App Arena episode 69 for Wednesday, October 28th, 2015. Howell's Halloween Picks. This episode of Android App Arena is brought to you by Braintree. Even the best mobile app won't work without the right payments API. That's where the Braintree V.0 SDK comes in. One amazingly simple integration gives you every way to pay. Try out the sandbox and see for yourself at braintreepayments.com/arena. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Android App Arena. I'm your host, Jason Howell, and happy Halloween, or as I like to say this time of year, happy Howellween. It's kind of hard to say for no good reason. Anyway, I love Halloween primarily because I love spooky things. I've lived a life filled with cut-rate schlock horror cinema. I've even written a script about head-banging zombies from the dead that I called Rock and Roll Zombies, which, by the way, no one ever really needs to read. I'll save you the time and my own embarrassment. So with Halloween coming up this weekend, I thought I'd take a look at a few apps and games that'll get you in the mood for a little trick-or-treat action. It's this week's Roundup. If all you've ever aspired to be in life is a ghost, then I've got a game for you. It's called Haunt the House, Terrortown. You have 4 levels to pick from right from the start. You choose a level, and you'll see your target. That's the number of people that you need to scare in order to pass the level. And here you are. You're this cute little ghost guy. Tapping anywhere on the screen flies your ghost to that position swiftly. Now, as you navigate through the level, you'll see plenty of cartoony people just kind of wandering around, minding their own business. Double tap pretty much any object that you see on the screen, and your ghost will then enter into that object, enabling you to interact with that object in hopefully very spooky ways. Do it enough, and the people that surround your dirty work will begin to get more and more spooked. At first, they're a little nervous, but eventually they're wide-eyed, mouth agape, and running for their lives. Scare someone so much that they decide to head for the hills, and you've done your job. That person is removed from the playfield, and you are one step closer to meeting your target. Now, as you scare more people, your powers when possessing objects kind of level up. That enables you even more impressive, over-the-top scares that do more damage to your victims. The fun of Haunt the House comes in finding out what your powers can do to any given object, and there are a ton of objects. Some rattle in place, others explode with grand, monstrous powers, and if you're constantly on the hunt for more screams, then you're doing your job right. Gameplay can get a tad repetitive at times, I would say. With 4 levels, you might find it's over before it begins, but it's still a fun way to burn some time. And what can I say? It's super satisfying when you can surprise a group and turn their smiles into looks of sheer terror. The art style is also pretty cute, as you can see here, and the music and sound effects add to the fun in whimsical ways. Haunt the House Terrortown can be found for $1.99 in the Play Store now. This next app is not for the faint of heart, and I mean that. If blood, guts, and horror make you queasy, then this is not for you, and you have my permission to fast forward. I'll give you a second. Okay, now that we got those wimps out of here, let's talk about horror movies. I, personally, am a horror freak. I grew up on this stuff. So my comfort level is, admittedly, takes a lot to gross me out. Netflix and other streaming services don't always have the best, deepest collection of true horror and gore films. So then, how about a video streaming service that is literally nothing but horror films? Welcome to Shudder, a new service that just emerged from its beta a few months ago, much like a zombie emerges from the grave. Horror fanatics looking for well-known and deep catalog indie horror films have finally found their home on the web. First, the design of the app is very immersive and enjoyable for horror fans. It does a great job kind of bringing you into the character of each film that's offered within the service. In the featured tab, you're presented with a number of tailored collections to get you started and new featured releases. You can swipe up and down to change that big hero image above, and that also allows you to kind of tap into any of those selections and see more. Let's check out a collection called Shudder Halloween. How fitting. Now I'm shown a curated list of some excellent Halloween movie selections. Honestly, it's hard not to find something that you'll want to watch right away. They make it so pleasing to the eye. Tapping any film brings you into a synopsis as well as a rating. And there are also reviews by other members of Shudder and other films that Shudder deems kind of similar in some way to the film that you're looking at. If you like the collections aspect of Shudder, there's a section devoted entirely to collections, to the colorful titles such as Psychos and Madmen, Comedy of Terrors, Smart Slashers, and Cult Masters, Euro Horror. They really dial in deep. The fact that each of the many narrow categories still contains a sizable list of movies to pick from kind of proves why this service is so awesome. You can also browse through the entire catalog by genre or by monster. So look for vampires or something like that. And of course, you can search by title or keyword to get right to that gem, kind of like Evil Dead, one of my personal favorites. Now, the app does lack Chromecast support at the moment, but I do know that the developers say they're working hard to get it integrated very soon, and I hope that they do. I love that the service exists, and I love even more that so many of my favorite horror films, in some cases hard to find horror films, are here. It's a service made by horror fans for horror fans. You can check out the service for free for 7 days, which is perfect because you can fuel your Halloween viewing leading up to Halloween. And if you like what you see, subscribe via Google Play for $5 per month. Look for Shudder in the Play Store now or else. Something I find incredibly appealing about Halloween and horror-infused entertainment is the use of sound. When it's done well. There's nothing quite like watching a horror movie that places reverence on not only the gruesome way the lead character meets his or her doom, but also what it sounded like, usually totally exaggerated to excellent effect. Here's a game that plays by those rules. It's called Dark Echo, and the name is perfectly fitting for the premise and visual landscape. You are a pair of feet in a dark room or hallway, or, well, you'll never actually know where you are because it's just so dark. The only way you can have any sense of the world that surrounds you is by slapping your feet on the ground, which you can do by tap and holding on the feet on the screen. Once you release after some time, you'll hear the noise. The longer you hold, the louder the tap. In doing so, those sound vibrations visibly bounce off the walls and corridors that surround you, giving you kind of an idea as to where you can go. You'll also get a sense of where to avoid. Here's a hint. Anything that's red, you don't want to touch. And sometimes those red things, well, they'll chase you, so you better run away as fast as you can. If they get you, a satisfying doom is presented and you start over. You'll also want to look for yellow lines. Those act as switches to open up other parts of the world. You only ever see something if a noise emanates from it. That's kind of the beauty of this game. It's a quintessential headphone game, if there ever was one, with elements that surround you, rich stereo fields, especially evident with the heavy doses of reverberation throughout these levels, and a dark, distant tone that pulls you in just in time for you to jump out of your chair when a bad guy gets you. The further you get, the more you begin to use noise to your advantage. You can do things like lure bad guys away from you where you really want to go, or tiptoe into a specific area so that they don't hear you. The levels are increasingly complex, and the audio and video style is absolutely unique in every way. Find Dark Echo, normally $1.99, but right now a measly 99 cents in the Play Store. Want to know what else you can look forward to this Halloween? This is got me so excited. On Hallows Eve, Stars, of all cable networks, will premiere the new series Ash vs. Evil Dead, resurrecting one of my absolute favorite horror franchises, along with cult star Bruce Campbell. I know some of you are looking at me with puzzled eyes going, who the what now? But I'm telling you, this is literally decades in the making, and it's given me something extra special to look forward to this Halloween. So maybe you want to check it out yourself if you dare, though you have to have Stars. That's kind of a challenge, I think. Before we move on, let's thank the sponsor of today's episode. This episode is brought to you by Braintree for developers. I know we have a lot of developers that follow this show. Developers around the world are embracing the Braintree V.0 SDK as the easiest way to add secure mobile payments to their apps and their websites. No matter what payment type, Braintree accepts it. Apple Pay, Android Pay, PayPal, Venmo, credit cards, even Bitcoin. And if something new pops up, Braintree will support that too. It's the same payment solution used by Uber, Airbnb, and GitHub, so you know that it scales. It's simple, secure payments. It's code that you can integrate in minutes, and that's just because it's so easy to do. Developers, you're covered here. You don't have to worry about taking days to integrate your payments. With Braintree, it's done in minutes. And if you don't even have minutes, if you don't have that time, you can just give them a call. They'll handle the integration for you and walk you through the process. The Braintree code supports Android, iOS, and JavaScript clients, SDKs in 7 languages. That's .NET, Node.js, Java, Perl, PHP, Python, Ruby, and just clearly documented, elegant code. It's 10 lines of in-app code. There's nothing to it. It's Braintree and gives you an easy way to accept payment types with one integration. Integrating it into your apps is as easy as just inserting a few lines of code, and you can try that out in their sandbox. They have a sandbox on the site. You can kind of see for yourself what it's all about at braintreepayments.com/arena. That's braintreepayments.com/arena. And we thank Braintree for their support of Android App Arena. All right, up next, this week's big app. It's kind of meant to calm the chaos from the previous apps we looked at. Once those bags of candy are depleted, you can check this game out. Let's take a look. So Halloween got you all riled up, and now you need a chaser. How about a new release that's as much of a game as it is a relaxation tool? In Prune, you begin as a seed, which you place with a slice up from the dirt at the beginning of each level. And from there, you quickly grow into a tall tree with branches emerging everywhere, like magic. A lonely, sprouting tree fighting hard to grow taller and eventually, hopefully, blossoms at the tips of your branches. Now, here, darkness is your enemy. So with each level, you fight to reach toward the light, with varying degrees of light peering through in different parts of the level. In order to keep growing, you must groom yourself by swiping at branches that keep you away from the light, promoting your growth in the direction that matters. If enough of your branches find the light, the tips will blossom, and you'll meet your maturity and pass the level, moving on to the next. Large areas of blackness are to be avoided, only because any growth that touches those will instantly die and fall off, and that stunts your growth. Challenging elements are thrown into the mix as well, like wind that blows incessantly and encourages growth in the direction of the wind. So you kind of have to counterbalance that force in other ways, like curving the beginning tree at the start of the level. Red areas also can infect your growth and ultimately spread everywhere and kill the rest of your tree. Blue areas accelerate growth when you can extend your tree into them. The experience is rather zen-like, with music and sounds that sound more like a sound machine that's meant to put you to sleep. Of course, with Prune, that's not a bad thing. It puts you in the right headspace, and the entire experience kind of reminds me of managing a Zen garden, letting your mind drift slowly, while at the same time run wild with ideas as to how to keep this world beautiful and alive. There really is no losing in Prune, necessarily. That isn't to say you can just advance through levels willy-nilly, but if your tree encounters darkness and can't grow sufficiently, all you need to do is grow another one. After a Halloween full of scares, take some time out to come down from the chaos with Prune for $3.99 in the Play Store. And that is that. I want to thank my internet friend, Marlon Thompson, aka the guy from Trinidad. He's responsible for 2 of the 4 apps in today's episode, and I love it when this show can be the result of you, the community, getting involved. So send me your favorite apps and categories and get involved. It's arena@twit.tv. You can also post those to the subreddit. It's androidapparena.reddit.com, and there everyone has access to your recommendations and kind of contribute to what you put in there and expand on those ideas. The show records live every Wednesday around 4:30 p.m. Pacific following Tech News Tonight. That's at twit.tv/live. And if you can't make the live taping, don't worry about it. The show will always appear later in the evening in the feeds and on the show page at twit.tv/arena. All right, that's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Jason Howell, and I will see you next week in the arena.